Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the dangerous future of artificial intelligence and its relationship with the human race. So basically, what's going to happen is artificial intelligence, which is not a new technology, is really going to dominate the world. We're seeing the beginning of a major shift in our civilization, in our identity as a human, in our personality. This truly started much longer in the past with the invention of the radio, then later the television, and then later the internet. But I guess people didn't notice, well, there was a huge change in the human behavior after the radio. Like, for example, in the 18th century, 19th century, humans were pretty much the same since centuries and millennia in the past. But with the radio technology, with television, different parts of the world became more connected with each other, leading to a major change in our mindset, which later led to the Cultural Revolution of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and so forth. But there is a cultural revolution happened today as well, and that began with the internet. The 90s was the beginning of the computer age, where it was the birth of the internet. Well, the internet is older than that, but if you compare the human brain today with the human brain in the past, and you don't have to go very far, probably 40 years ago, you're going to see that the youth today, the teenagers, the young people, the children, are behaving differently. They're thinking differently. What the internet has done to our brain, to our bodies, is that we are more than ever sedentary. We're constantly scrolling on Facebook or YouTube. We are constantly obtaining information. We're always reading, we're always looking at images, we're always looking at videos without ever leaving our chair. Or we would get up and we put music on YouTube and then immediately we start singing and partying and so forth. So there has been a change in our behavior. There has been a change in everything we do, in everything that we are, our identity, and so forth. Um, we are more than ever connected with each other, but we're also not as connected. It's kind of weird. Even though that we might post something on social media and immediately the world knows about it, but at the same time, we're not connecting, we're not interacting as good as we used to. We seem to be connected artificially in a web pattern, a matrix of communication, electronic communication, where we're we have been brought together as a globalized world. It's almost like we are slowly becoming one single entity through the internet. And we're being ruled by these artificial intelligence, by this huge computer, all the servers in the world providing all the databases and information about human history, culture, and all sorts of things. We're evolving. We evolved from apes in Africa, but we are still evolving. We are still changing. This is why children look slightly different from their parents, and their children will look slightly different than them. Of course, evolution takes millions of years, but small variations can happen within centuries. And what we're seeing is because of technology, because of the internet, we're probably changing at a faster pace. We're adapting to indoor environment. We no longer can be outside. The weather outside is extremely harmful for us. We're not as physically fit. A lot of people suffer from anxiety too because our ancestors were used to hunting and gathering, to living outdoors, to being under the sun, under the rain, under the wind, to be exposed to the environment. We've been indoors ever since the Industrial Revolution. We're becoming a new species, almost like. Our brain is no longer the same because every experience you have in your life, you make a new connection in your brain. But the connections we're making relates to the internet, to the computer, to the cell phone. So nothing will prevent us in the future from becoming cyborgs, half human, half robots. Or since we're always carrying our phone everywhere we go, probably in the future we're going to make the phone as part of our body, make our social media as part of our experience or part of our emotions, part of who we are. And if we are really connected to the computer to the point where we can transfer thoughts with images and sound through these circuits, we can let people experience what we experience psychologically. And all this unification, all this unity in the internet, in the cell phones, in the computer, in those chips, with all those transistors, with all that language, computer language, we then unify into a single thing called the human race of the third millennium. Something that I always thought it would be more towards the year 3000. We barely began the new millennium, 2024, and we already seen this as part of a reality. The amount of progress we've been having in the last years has been extremely scary. Neuralink, for example, the connection of brain to computers. But what could happen with these technology is that even though we're going to be connected, even though we're going to have great wealth of information, even though the possibilities would be phenomenal, the biggest problem lies in the fact that we might become an entire different species. We'll no longer be humans. We'll be something else. We rely on artificial intelligence to help us drive our car. We rely on artificial intelligence to tell us where to go. We rely on artificial intelligence to schedule appointments, to check our vitals, to communicate with the doctor if there's a problem with our health. We rely on artificial intelligence and computers and all that database and all those logic gates of transistors, which is a very complex structure that works to help us make the right decisions, to help us think. And what's going to happen is we'll no longer be able to think for ourselves. We're going to be, the computer will become part of our thinking process. And with this becoming more mechanical in the future, with this situation becoming more complex and more of the norm, if if this is how fast things are going this early in human uh, history, centuries in the future, it would just be even more of it. So the inability to think or critically think by yourself without the usage of artificial intelligence, the inability to make a work of art without the artificial intelligence, the inability to communicate with another person without the help of these technologies. It's going to cause us to completely shut down, and eventually we're going to become not the human that we know of, not the human that we saw coming out of Africa and building ziggurats in Mesopotamia or pyramids in Egypt, not the human that brought the Greek uh, civilization with all of its philosophers. Because think about it, ancient Greece had its philosophers. Aristotle, Plato wrote thousands of pages on critical thinking rhetoric. Today, people would use artificial intelligence to produce that much of a quality of a work. But they in the past did not need those technologies. They used their brain, they used their mind. So if what's going to happen is, I know what's going to happen. Unless we create a new rule, a new way of, unless we create restrictions like this technology can only be used in this manner. Only the governments can use, or SpaceX, or NASA, or it can only be used for medical doctors during a surgery to help them prevent a mistake or pilots flying airplanes to prevent them, to help them in an emergency. I can see that. But this technology is really overcoming our being. It's invading our space. It's becoming the new normal. And all of this brings to mind that yes, did, the future did arrive. We are in the age of or that our science fiction authors in the past talked about. We are in the age that actually we are entering an age that is different from Star Wars or Star Trek because if you watch Star Wars, people in the Star Wars are humans or aliens. But the future that is near for us is a mind-computer connection interface. It's like a interconnection between us, the computer, and each other. All of humanity into a single framework. The internet, the database, the information, the communication, the feelings, the expression. Something that the creators of Star Wars and Star Trek did not talk about. So literally, it's a future that many science fiction authors didn't even speculate. Truly, reality is more weird than science fiction. Science fiction authors explain about the future of the universe, future of the human race with spaceships and computers, but very few histories, very few stories about what we're currently experiencing. So the real life, the reality is far more advanced than any science fiction story from the 20th and 19th century anybody could even possibly predict. And this is astonishing. This is astonishing how we are becoming so evolved and developed technologically that we have surpassed all expectations and all predictions of the future. So we're going to turn into something completely different. And I am, at one side, I find it very cool. At the other, I am very, very scared. And I'm just curious on what's going to happen. And to be honest, with this connection, with this technology, it's more so likely that the changes can be very negative unless we come up with a new constitution, a new way of organizing the human world that will use this technology for our benefit and for our survival. Thanks for watching.